it's John Glynn. Today on this tutorial we're going to be looking at the eraser tool in your toolbox. On the left hand side of your picture you should have a picture open, I hope, and on the left hand side in the toolboxes you will see the eraser tool. If I just click on it once with the left mouse key, it should come up with the name eraser tool. The letters on the right of the tool name there's letter E in this particular one. I'll go back to that. There we are. Is a shortcut key on the keyboard, so capital E will open up the eraser tool. That's just another way of accessing the tools. Below your picture you will find three options for the eraser. We'll work our way through them. This therefore may be a slightly long video to watch in one fell swoop, but I'll do it as quickly as I possibly can and still make sense. So I've got the eraser tool open, and I've got a brush on the right hand side. It's a soft edged brush, and if you click on the various choices you get hard edged brushes as well, and underneath those brush sizes or brush styles you get size of brush, which is run on a little slider. You can also use your square brackets on your keyboard to resize, so the left side one of the square brackets will make your brush bigger, and you can see your cursor, the size thing, change down below at the same time, and the left hand square bracket makes the brush smaller, and that may be quicker and easier than whizzing up and down and changing the size through the slider. And underneath the size option you get opacity, and that's how strong your eraser will be, the effect of the eraser. So I'll show you those options just now. And on the right hand side you've got pencil, brush and block, and I'll go through those as well. So I'm going to just change the size of the brush slightly. It's on the big side, and I'm just going to drag from left to right, holding down the left mouse key. I'm just using a PC in Photoshop Elements 20, nothing clever, with just a standard mouse. So you'll notice that when I raise the picture I actually remove the picture, okay, and underneath the picture is a white sheet of paper. I know it's white because on my toolbox on the left hand side there's color swatches. At the moment those swatches are black and white, and the background color, which is behind my piece of paper, is white. If I click on that box, just one click on that box, and you get a color option is coming up. I'm just going to click on the red as an option and I say OK. It now becomes a red box, and now when I go from left to right with my mouse you will see a red background. So whatever that color is in your color swatch, the background color is the color behind your photograph. To put it back to default colors you have black and white squares there, click them and back to black and white. These are hard edge brushes, so I'm going to go down to the brush and change it to a soft edge brush. Doesn't matter what size, these little numbers on the side define size, but as we know we can change the size ourselves, so it doesn't really matter. And by just doing the keyboard shortcut on the bracket I can make it bigger, and holding down the left mouse key now you can see that I get a soft edge. And the soft edge means that it blends in with anything in the background, so or into my picture. So we tend to use soft edge brushes more than hard edge brushes, but it's just a matter of depending on your picture or what you're doing as to which one you will use. Further to that, I'm going to undo that just now, and then I'll go through pencil and block. To undo it, the easiest way is just to go to my history, and I've got a history panel up, and it just says me doing undo, undo, undo all the time. A history panel, if you don't know where it is hidden under window in the top toolbar. The word window opens up all the panels that will appear on the right hand side of the screen are here, and if they've got a tick they're open, and if they're unticked they're not active. Okay, so history is open, it's here on the right. Just tick them if you want to open, one click with the left mouse key, and then I just go back to the word open in my history panel. Just click it once with the left mouse key, click once with the right mouse key, click with the right mouse key, clear history, say OK, and you're back to square one. Okay, so it just speeds up the process of working a little bit. Okay, so brush. I'll go to block next. Block is doesn't allow you any change of brush. It doesn't let you change the size of the brush and doesn't let you change the opacity of the brush, but it does give you a block. Okay, so square, holding down the left mouse key, you can see you get square shape. There you are. So that's a block, and therefore if you were doing round walls or something, it might be useful. If you want a straight line, hold down the left mouse key before you start. There, I've got it held down. Now hold down the shift key, and keeping the shift key on your keyboard held down, move your mouse to the right or left or up or down, and you will get a straight line. Okay, and that goes with all the brushes. Okay, so that's a block. We've looked at brush, and we'll look at pencil. Pencil is basically the same as brush. It just gives you a slightly different edge definition in that it is less. If I go to brush, it's sort of a smoother edge. Go to pencil and you get a funny jaggy edge. Okay, on the brush. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of difference when you're actually using it. It's not always that easy to see the difference in some of these brushes. To me, it just looks like the standard brush at this stage. Okay, so you've got those three choices: brush, pencil and block. Brush will probably do for most people. And opacity. I haven't done opacity yet. At the moment it's 100% opacity. In other words, you're seeing white, 100% white, as being the background colour. If I reduce the opacity and then move my mouse over my picture, you'll notice that I keep some of the original tone, and the less opacity I use, the more of the original tonal I keep. So you can use it as a way of lightening a picture as well as erasing part of the picture, potentially. Now there are problems with this particular tool. That is, it is a destructive process. It removes actual pixels from your picture. So generally speaking, we advise people not to use the eraser tool because it does just remove pixels and they're not easy to replace. There is a workaround for a later course, but at this stage we have to assume it's going to destroy the foundations of your picture rather than keeping it in good quality. Okay, just be aware of that as we move through the other choices. Just very quickly, I'm going to erase all those again and say clear history. Okay, now brushes. There are lots of different brushes. If I click on brush, at the moment we've just had circular brushes, but if I move down the list, you will find that there are various shapes of brushes and finishes of brushes all listed in here. Okay, some of them can be quite interesting, and again I'll make it bigger so that we can see what these are. There's a star-shaped brush. Okay, so these could be used in your photographs for artistic purposes quite easily. It's a matter of just trying them out. They start off as being very small. A lot of this is to do with painting rather than photography, but there's no reason why you couldn't be using them in your photographs for certain effects. Making birthday cards and Christmas cards would be a purpose I could think of for using these sort of different brushes. But anyway, it's just to show that there are different styles of brushes hidden, and that goes for most of the brushes that are in Photoshop. Somewhere there are going to be other options. Okay, you can just drag them down. You'll also be able to find them under the top title here. It says brush. If you click on that, you can see a whole load of different ones are listed. That's basically as a shortcut of going to the different types of brushes that you have. So artistic brushes, and it's a matter of just trying them out and just see what the effects are, and some of them may be more interesting than others. A lot of it comes down to having a pen and things, a pen stylus. rather than just rather than the kind of thing we're using, which is a mouse. Okay, so you've got a default brushes. Make sure that if you go back to default brushes and you've been on a different brush, you'll still have to just click these, because you may find it still remembers the previous shape. Okay. We've been over the brush, style, size of brush, opacity, and the three options here. We'll move on to the next brush option, which is the background eraser. So I'm going to again undo everything I've done so far. Go back to open, clear history. Okay, and we can look at removing backgrounds, and I'm just going to start with discontiguous, size, tolerance. Okay, on this one we hold down the left mouse key. In fact, what I'm going to do on this one is create I'm going to create a transparent layer. To do that, I'm going to go to my background, my actual picture, the background version in the layers palette. So if you go to the right hand side of your picture area, you'll see the layers palette, I hope, with a little picture, thumbnail of the picture that you got on your main window. If the layers palette isn't open, you'll find it at the very bottom of your monitor. It says layers on the right hand side next to effects and everything, and you can also pick it up under window and you'll find layers is also there. So I've got layers here. Usually it opens automatically. I'm going to click my right mouse key and say duplicate layer, left mouse key. It just says copy, background copy. Say OK. I now have a background copy to my to the original image. I'm going to turn off the bottom one with the little magic eye. So I've only got the top picture active. The bottom one is there, but I've switched it off. So now when I do an eraser, it actually removes the picture, and what you see is a transparent layer underneath. It means that anything that is underneath I would be able to see. So if I switch the background on again, it's there. Okay, so it allows me to put in a false background, and a false sky, for instance. If I wanted a different sky, this might be one way of achieving that effect. Now, at the moment, as I move across, it's got a little, the circle has a plus in it. That's very important to be aware of. And I'm going to zoom in. To zoom in, I'm going to hold down the control key and plus on the keyboard, because I just find that a bit quicker as a way of moving in. I also have Navigator open as well on the right hand side there, which also allows you to zoom in and out and move around your picture fairly quickly. So I'm going to hold down the left mouse key and drag my mouse and head towards the bridge, and you can see as I go around the bridge that my mouse will not just, it's not only just taking out the sky, the main part of the sky, it's actually also taking out parts of the sky behind the bridge. And that's because the circle that the brush happens to be sees beyond itself. It picks up pixels beyond itself of the same tone that I'm over as I'm moving my mouse around. Okay, it's picking up all those tones of blue even behind the bridge. So if I zoom in even more, there we are, and I can now use my Navigator just to move up to where I'm working. You can see that behind the bridge it's also taking out the blue. Now, as long as the crosshairs is not over the bridge, because if the crosshairs goes over the bridge, it will remove the bridge. Okay, so you have to make sure that those crosshairs don't go over the bridge. Just as another example, I will move over to the right hand side slightly, there we are, and if I put my mouse inside this bit of the bridge, and you can see the crosshairs over the blue sky, and I click once, you can see it quite clearly only takes out the blue that the crosshair sees, doesn't take out anything else. If I put it over the bridge, my crosshairs, it will remove the bulk of the bridge as well. So the crosshairs is really important. And this is also under the term here, discontiguous. Okay, discontiguous is allowing pixels beyond my circle, beyond the brush, to be included within the selection. If I go to contiguous and I do the same in contiguous, you can see that although the brush, I haven't changed the size of the brush, it only picks up pixels within a given shape and within that circle. Okay, it doesn't go outside that shape. There's a border to my shape here. It only picks up pixels directly next to the pixel that I'm clicking on, if you like. So that group of pixels has been uplifted, but no more. So contiguous allows you to do this kind of thing. If I'm going to undo what I've done because I think it'll make it easier to understand. Clear history. Okay. Now, so this time I'm going to just zoom out slightly. Oh, not as much as that. And I'm going to run down the edge of the bridge. Same thing again, but this time you can see that even though my brush is over the bridge, as long as my crosshairs remains on the left hand side of the bridge, the pixels behind the bridge are not removed. Okay, it keeps it clean behind, so it allows you to run down edges of buildings, around trees, anything like that, as long as my crosshairs do not go over the bridge. If my crosshairs go over the bridge, then it will remove the bridge as well. Okay, so you have to be watching those crosshairs. So this is now going to depend on what picture you're going to be utilizing as to how whether you'd be contiguous or discontiguous. Discontiguous would be the most useful one behind trees, for instance, because you've got branches and everything that you presumably want to keep, but you may want to take the sky out. But contiguous might be the one you would do for a solid building. So you may jump between them. Tolerance is related to the how much of this tonal range will be picked up. So if you have a very low tonal range, you may find that, as you can see here, it doesn't pick up as much. The tolerance is lower, it doesn't pick up as many different shades. So you can see that although I'm over parts of the blue, it may not pick it up straight away, okay, because unless the X is over it, it won't remove it at all. So tolerance is down to the basis of how much of the background you're going to remove in any one go. Okay, so just be aware of tolerance. Well, this is more important in the next one than maybe in this particular part of the eraser tool. Brush settings allows you to change the impact of this particular brush, because here we've got size and tolerance, but you may want a soft brush or a hard brush. At the moment it's on 100% hard. If you're looking for a soft brush, you just put the slider down and you now have a soft edge brush. You can see the difference between a hard edged and a soft edge brush, and you can go anywhere in between. Okay, matter of just trying them out and seeing what the effect is that you're looking for. Don't want to change the size. It's the brush thing I'll do. There we are. And spacing, I'll show you spacing. I'm going to take out what I've been doing just to make it easier to see. So if we go back to open and clear history, say OK. Spacing. If I up the spacing and I hold down the left mouse key, and keeping the left mouse key held down, I move my mouse, you can see it leaves spaces depending on the speed of which I'm moving my mouse. If I move it slowly, it links them. If I move it quickly, it leaves spaces. If I go back to spacing and I reduce the spacing, it now becomes one long line. I'm holding down the left mouse key as I go. Okay, so spacing allows you to play around with spacing. We normally have it quite low. And roundness is to do with the shape of my circle. So at the moment it's completely round. You can see it at the bottom here. If I reduce the roundness, you'll see the shape will change. But the same will happen on my brush as well. So if I go back to completely round, and then I do an elliptical, and if I go far enough down, I can do almost a straight line, and you can also change the angle of that straight line as well. Obviously on a circle it makes no difference. Okay, so this matter of making sure, it's just understanding the process. You may never ever change it. Okay, this is a lot of this is to do with graphics, which is why it's under drawing rather than photographic. Okay, but it's understanding the process of it. So just have a go at going through those and just seeing what they do and how they work. If you don't save changes, then it will go back to default settings anyway. Okay, so we've had a look at the background eraser tool. It is a useful one just to have an understanding of. Excuse me. I will now go back, undo what I've been doing, clear history again, and this time we're going to move on to the magic eraser tool. The magic eraser tool will again works on tolerance and opacity, but there's no brush size. Okay, so once I click on the background, it picks up and removes everything of the same tonal range. I will zoom out, you can get an idea of what it's done. The thing is, of course, it takes everything out of the same tonal range, including in the C. Okay, so that may have an impact on how you use this particular tool. If we undo that, I can just click undo at the bottom, so I've only done one thing, and reduce the opacity. No, not the opacity. What am I talking about? Reduce the tolerance. Sorry, reduce your tolerance. It will only take out a lesser part of your picture. Let's undo that and go back. There we are. Okay, so I've reduced the tolerance, and by reducing the tolerance it doesn't pick up as much information elsewhere in the picture. It's looking at a smaller number of pixels, if you like, of a certain tonal range. I can increase them by just clicking with the left mouse key elsewhere, but obviously then picks up more of those particular shades of blue or whatever it was in the water as well. So this is under tolerance. Tolerance is how much of a particular tonal range is included in your original selection. Opacity, as we know, is how strong that that effect will be. So at the moment it's 100%. If I reduce it and do the same again, you can see there's still a bit of a tonal range in that, even though it's actually a transparent layer, it has kept some of the tonal range of the original image. Okay, generally speaking, we would be removing the whole thing. That would be the general plan of action, so it goes completely clear. Okay, so opacity is normally 100%, but it doesn't have to be. Again, on the right hand side you have contiguous and sampling all layers. Well, I've only got one layer, so I don't need to sample all layers, but I do have to look at contiguous, because this now changes the way that it will work as well. So if I click on the sky now, you can see that it doesn't go beyond a given point, and that's because it's in effect within a bounding box, a bounding area. You can see that. Whilst take off contiguous, and let's undo what I've done and do the same again, and you can see the definite difference. Now the advantage of contiguous is or taking it off by removing the little tick in contiguous, it's now taken the blue out of the background of the bridge as well, but it's taken the blue out of the water. Contiguous only works on pixels immediately next to it and doesn't go beyond certain points because there's like a barrier to them. It's just removed that part of the sky. But it may be a good starting point, and then you may move on to other tools, or you may change the way that this tool is worked. So take that off and reduce your tolerance significantly, and then going inside one of these little blue areas, and it takes out the rest of that. And okay, it's taken out a bit here. That's a bit annoying because it is a destructive system. We can to some degree get around that problem, but do remember this is a destructive, generally speaking, it's a destructive process, so that once it removes pixels in its most basic form, they've gone, and it would be very difficult to put them back. So just being aware of those factors. So there are other ways of removing the sky and not impacting everything all in one go. Okay, so it has to be used carefully, this particular tool. Anti-aliasing, by the way, is just to keep it from pixelating. It keeps a nice edge, so we keep that ticked on. Okay, so it is worth getting used to these tools. A lot of the processes here are also repeated in other tools in slightly different ways, but they have the basic processes are the same. So it's understanding them, and I think it's always a good thing to get an understanding of how a tool works, even if you decide that you're never going to use it, because you may find that other tools have similarities to them, and the terminology is important to understand. Also, where things are hidden, how they work, is always very useful to have as well. So let's have a go at these three tools. You've got the basic eraser tool, the background eraser tool, and the magic eraser tool. It's quite quick to change things. If you're doing lots, let's do the history. It means you don't have to keep on clicking undo and undo. You can just wipe out a whole load. So that's a useful thing to get used to using as well. And I also have Navigator, which allows me to zoom in and out quite quickly. You can use the keyboard shortcuts as well, Control key plus and Control key minus for zooming in and out. But you can also use Navigator, which you pick up in Window and Navigator, and that allows you to move around your picture fairly quickly too. And when you're doing this sort of thing with erasing backgrounds and so on, in any of the tools, it's useful to be able to zoom in, zoom out, and move around the picture quickly without having to come out of the tool that you're using. So the Navigator allows you to do that fairly quickly, and you can zoom in, and then you can move the little red box around if you wish, or just jump to a particular area you want to go to. Okay, that's this session over with. and it was quite a long one, but thank you very much for watching.